And for more in-depth analysis, joining us in the studio is Senior Captain Zhang Junshe, Vice President of the Naval Research Institute. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties was signed back in 2002. That's more than a decade ago. So what has China been doing to implement it?
Well, ever since China and ASEAN signed the DOC, the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea in 2002, China has strictly adhered to the principles of the DOC and has exercised great restraint when facing provocations from other countries such as the Philippines and the Vietnamese. And China has advocated that all parties concerned in the South China Sea issue should set aside disputes and seek joint development. And China has put forward many suggestions for cooperation in maritime arena. And just last year, President Xi Jinping put forward the concept of the 21st century maritime Silk Road. He says that we should utilize the China-ASEAN Maritime Cooperation Fund and develop a maritime cooperative partnership. We know that the China-ASEAN Maritime Cooperation Fund was established by China in 2011, and China intends to use this fund in cooperation in areas such as maritime search and rescue, maritime scientific research, and fighting transnational maritime crimes. So we hope other countries will echo China's good hope and strengthen cooperation between China and ASEAN.
And as we talked about, China and ASEAN are working on that code of conduct right now. So what are some of the obstacles that they might face?
Well, since the signing of the DOC, China and most of the ASEAN countries have followed the principles of the DOC, but some countries in this area did not adhere to the DOC. And we think that China has taken an open and active attitude toward the creation of the COC. But before creating the COC, I think that all the parties should fully implement the DOC, but some countries did not. For instance, the Philippines sent its naval warships to harass and threaten the Chinese fishing boats in the waters of Hualien Island, which belongs to China. And the Philippines sent the dispute between China and the Philippines for international arbitration, which violates the principle of the DOC, which stipulates that all parties should seek peaceful settlement through friendly consultations and negotiations between the parties. And also for Vietnam, we know that Vietnam set up its first oil rig in 1986 in the waters of Nam Sha Islands. And during the last 30 years, it made a lot of money from the oil it got in the waters of the Nam Sha Island. And the money accounts for almost 30% of its GDP. But when China set up its oil rig in the waters of Shisha Island, which belongs to China, the Vietnamese ran their armed vessels into the Chinese civilian ships. So we hope these two countries will stop their provocative actions against China and return to the proper way of negotiations with China.
Well, Captain Zhang, thank you very much for your time and your insight. Much appreciated.